Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Wet Palette Podcast. Today, we have another interview for our Some Like It Hot series, and I am eager to get started. Today's guest is a graduate of Emory University and New York's Culinary Institute of America. She began her hospitality career in New York City as Jean Georges in pastry. She earned an advanced sommelier certificate from the Court of Master Sommeliers Americas in 2012. 5 years she spent as wine director for Michi's. As you all know, that's Michelle Bernstein. She completed the Master Sommelier Diploma examination in all areas, won the 2016 America's Top Somm competition, was the beverage director for 50 Eggs Hospitality Group, developing wine and spirits programs for Yardbird, Kong River House. My gosh, I used to love Kong River House.
Me too.
And Swine Southern Table and Bar. That spot was just unlucky altogether. Sommelier at Lamar. I might have run into you at some point because we live there, basically. And currently head sommelier at Vinya, well, head everything at Vinya, overseeing the beverage programs for all of the brand's holdings, which include Vinya Table and Coral Gables, Vinya Wine and Marketing Key Biscayne, VinyaWine.com, and Casa Mariano, one of my regular spots for the family, for family outings. Fine. Welcome to the podcast, Allegra Angelo. Woo!
Thanks for having me. This is really exciting. I'm actually kind of nervous, but this is fun. Thanks.
No, it's all good. Nothing editing can't fix. As you will notice when you hear
I
this.
love that. I love it.
Yes. Okay. So how long have you been at this current job?
God, I met Nick, the owner, almost 5 years ago in the summer of 2019, and he had this vision for Vinya, and we connected through a mutual friend. He said, his friend said, I think you should meet this girl, Allegra. And my friend called me. We had coffee multiple times. I think we had, I just didn't, I was skeptical of his like passion. And I'm like, for someone that doesn't come from hospitality, you want to create this brand and do these things. And I think we had coffee maybe like 6 or 7 times before I finally came on board October 1st of 2019. So it was just the two of us. We started. Now we have about 100 employees.
Right before COVID. How fun.
Yeah. Wow. When you think back, it seems so long ago. And it was unlucky, lucky. COVID was such crazy times, but for us, we kind of did this backwards model where we actually launched online firstly. We started doing events online, selling wine boxes online. So then when COVID kind of took full force in March of 2020, we kind of got this little boom and with online sales and delivering wine at people's houses. And I would do most of the deliveries myself at night after work. And I hate to say this, but it was kind of fun. And it was kind of like this thrill and this rush because I don't know, we just got this, we were really busy all the time, and there was something like oddly really thrilling about it that I miss in a way, and connecting with our guests through Instagram and Somm Live things and Sip with the Somm Live. And it was just a very unique, it was just different looking back. But I connected with some of our first customers in a way that was so unique and special. So that's crazy to think back on that. But yeah.
Well, yeah, you were lucky to find a way to make it work given the impossible situation. And you were kind of like placed, like you said, you started backwards online.
Yeah.
So that was kind of lucky.
Yeah. And that's, we were fortunate to have investment and funding to build the online platform and the shop. So we were fortunate in that way to have that. We still always have that. So it's kind of a nice safety net if something was to ever happen again. But it was just an interesting way to communicate with people. We started this series, Sip with the Somm, and live on Instagram, and sometimes it would crash and it would go out, and we would do these chats and maps and games, and we would give away a prize. And I would make the kits, people would get their wine, and like say one episode we did a Frilano, and then we do a mystery wine, and I'm putting the mystery wine into all these little vials, and then everyone would get their vial at the end. We do a mystery wine together, and it was just, in times like that, when you're in a box, you're forced to be, your creativity just reaches a new level, because you have to come up with solutions. You have to come up with ways to make money and stay alive and stay afloat. And to me, that's so thrilling. I love being in like these situations, like what can we do to survive? And yeah, it was, like I said, it was like oddly like I just had this thrill of going to work every day. I can't explain it. It's just, it was so cool.
Let's take it a little back so that our listeners really get to know all of you. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
Oh, I was born in St. Raphael's Hospital in New Haven, Connecticut. It's now no longer there. It's part of Yale University because they took over everything. So it's now Yale New Haven Hospital. But I grew up in New Haven till I was about 4 or 5. And then I moved to the town next door called Orange, Connecticut. This is in Connecticut for those who don't know. Yeah, and that's where I lived till I was 18. My mom's family's from New Haven. They're Italian. So I grew up in this very loud, very blue collar Italian family, almost kind of Sopranos-like in the best way possible, not in that way, but very. And it's just interesting because my dad's family is originally from Staten Island in New Jersey, and his family came over earlier. They were like third generation already, and they were also Italian, but they were much more progressive. Everyone, had gone to college already, and they were much more white collar. So I don't know, I had this dichotomy. It was really interesting. Like my dad's family was much more, they were chemists and lawyers and doctors, and my mom's family, they were truck drivers, and there was just, it was a different, it was really cool. So I grew up with these two different spheres, kind of social spheres. But I grew up with my mom's family in New Haven, and I think it's like one of the coolest places on the planet. I love New Haven. I was actually considering moving back there in 2000. When was this? 2013? No, 2011. 2011, before I started with 50 Eggs, I was actually considering buying a bar there with my dad. And I was so close to doing it. And then I don't know, I just wasn't ready to give up Miami, I guess. But it's a great place for those who haven't been. I love it. And we do have the best food and the best pizza on the planet.
So then you went off to college, but you majored in photography? Is that what it was?
I went to college in Atlanta. I wanted to get the heck out of the Northeast. I went to this like prep school, and everyone goes, and anyone that went to like a New England prep school, everyone typically goes to these very preppy schools in New England, or they go to Ivy League schools and blah, blah, blah. And I always hated the cold weather. So I wanted to get the heck out of the Northeast. And I really wanted to go to California. I really wanted to go to UCLA or Berkeley, and my parents wouldn't let me. So I went to Emory, which I loved, and I majored in biological anthropology. So, I mean, anthropology is really the study of anything. You have the cultural, linguistics, and the biological. I don't even know why I chose that looking back. I didn't want to be an anthropologist. I thought it was just something cool to major in, and I chose it. But I think I did the minimal requirements to get my degree, because I took classes in kind of everything. And but yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm like, why did I choose that? I have no idea. I thought it was cool, or it sounded cool. I was like, okay, I'll major in this. I don't know what I'm doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. But yeah.
But then from there you jumped to culinary school.
Yeah, I was not the best student. I actually am like shocked that I actually got into a decent college, because I had terrible grades in high school. I went to a really hard high school, Hopkins. It was just kicked my butt.
That soprano connection.
Oh, it was terrible. And even in college, I'm just not a sitter. And I was not, I had classes I did great in, I would ace, and I had classes that I got F's in. I was all over the place, but I started working at this restaurant called Watershed in Decatur, and I was a hostess there. and I just loved it. And I would spend more time working than I probably should have studied. And I thought I wanted to be a chef. So I was like, I really think I want to be a chef. I like cooking. I like these restaurants. These seem so cool and different. And it was just, Watershed was such a special place. We were so busy. We did fried chicken nights on Tuesday, and it was like one of the hottest tickets in Atlanta. Um, and yeah, I thought I wanted to be a chef. So I went to culinary school in the fall of 2002. Wow. Oh my God. Yeah. Um, and I thought I wanted to be a chef, and I got to culinary school and I was like, I don't think I want to be a chef.
Mhm.
It
So,
was so nerve-wracking. I hated, like, I didn't like the stress of, like, I remember we were in like the Italian restaurant one night having to make pasta. It was like our final mission. And I just hated the pressure and getting yelled at. And like, I just I didn't like it. It's just, I like more the culture of food and talking about food and ingredients and product knowledge. But I realized, and I, from doing stages in New York City, and I was like, I don't think I want to be a chef. I was like, I don't think this is for me. So my friend said, you know what, you should try pastry. Why don't you try pastry? I'm like, yeah, the pastry people always seem a little quirky. They're always playing classical music. It's more, a little more zen. I was like, yeah, I'll do pastry. That's what I'll do. So I would take the train down to Jean Georges and stage like every weekend when I was in culinary school. Like when you could work for free. I don't think people do this anymore, but that's what you did. You would just
right.
work for free. I'm like, I did that. Why would I do that? That's crazy. But he's like, there's this great pastry chef, John Uzzini. He was doing savory side. And he's like, I think I'll contact Johnny. Let's see if you could stage there. Um, so I staged there for almost a year, and then I worked there after when I graduated. And then I realized I hated pastry.
So
I think that's like
at what point did wine come in?
I hate making macaroons, and I hate tempering chocolate, and I hate this. This is horrible. Like, this is just, I don't have the patience for it. I think that's like a natural funnel for a lot of people in hospitality. Like, you just don't know what else you want to do. So you end up doing something in beverage. I didn't even drink at that time. I had my first glass of wine, I think, when I was maybe when I was on my 21st birthday, but I wasn't a big drinker. Um, and I just didn't realize that there was like a beverage world until I worked at John George. And I've told this story before, that the Somm there was a man named Christo, tall, good looking. He was from Buffalo, super cool. And he would always come by our pastry station upstairs. We would serve the main dining room and, like, have a smell of wine or a taste of wine. And I was like, that's so cool. Like, what does he do? Oh, he's the head Somm. And I'm like, what is, like, I didn't even know this was a possibility. So kind of picked his brain. And I think just watching his staff, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I could get into this if I wanted to. So that just kind of, I think, instilled a little bit of a bug in me. But it wasn't really, no one talks about getting into the wine business or beverage business when I was growing up. It was very traditional, right? You're either a teacher, a nurse, a doctor, an architect, a lawyer. You're not, you know, no one's encouraging you to, like, go to culinary school or work in a restaurant or something. That's crazy, right? So, but I think Christo really inspired me. So I always say that. I think now he works for Wilson Daniels, up in New York, but great guy.
So how did you make that connection? So, okay, so maybe wine is something I do want. So then what did you do next?
Yeah, I think there's no set, again, looking back, I think there's no set. I'm not that type of person where I have, people have these like 5-year goals, 10-year goals and plans, and I'm just not that type of person. I just kind of go on, I feel like life is like magnets, and I just go on hunches and leads and feelings, and that's how I work. And I just take the next step, and then I take the next step, and then like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 3 years or 5 years. I just go on. Like, I believe in the theory of magnets. I believe in that with people. I believe that with work. And I was in New York, and then I remember not. I was like, I don't really like it here. It's too cold. My brother and sister were living in Miami at the time, and I was intrigued about getting into the front of the house. And I was coming down to visit my sister. This was in February of 2006. And I saw on Craigslist, that's when everyone went to Craigslist to find a job. Um, and I saw that Michelle Bernstein was opening a restaurant, and I had just seen her on Iron Chef. I thought she was so cool. And it's like Michelle Bernstein opens a restaurant, Upper East Side. That's what they called it before. Now it's Mimo, but Upper East Side, and they were looking for servers. And I was just like, what a great place to like, I don't know. I just sent in my application, my resume. I met with them, I think the day it opened, February 23rd. I think I maybe met with them on the 24th and then started on like the 27th. I still had my lease in New York for a year. And I moved in with my sister and I started working at Mishi's as a server. And I told them, I think in my interview, that I wanted to learn more about wine. I was going to take my intro exam. I remember being on the plane ride down. I had like the Court of MS book, like the workbook, old school workbook. And I was like trying to memorize my grapes and my wine regions. And like, I don't know, I just was like, okay, I'm just going to be into this right now. And that was honestly such an amazing place because they were at a time where they had just left the Mandarin. They could do whatever the F they wanted to do. They could cook the food they want. They didn't have to worry about these beverage deals and this. They could order the
Right.
wine if they wanted to.
You're talking
It
about
was
Azul, right?
oh, it was
Azul.
like this creative heaven. And Michelle was there. So it was great. It was like, they lived down the street. I would go to their house, pick up the wine. Like they were, and David was like overseeing beverage, but I would go in early every day at 11 and help. I would move the wine. I would stock the wine. I was just doing it because it was fun. And and they were so great and so cool. I made so many mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and they were just the best mentors ever. And it was just this place for me to learn and grow and make mistakes and it be okay and not like get yelled at sometimes, but in a good, like loving way. And I mean, I remember one time it was Art Basel and I walked in and Michelle was like, oh my God, what are you? I was dressed like so casually. I think I was wearing jeans or something. I can't believe I did this. And she's like, go home and change right now. What the hell are you wearing? And like just those little lessons of like, I remember messing up inventory for a couple of months and realizing how to do inventory properly. And I don't know, it was just so unique. I was there almost 6 years and it was the best learning place ever. I got to open up so many bottles of wine. That's where I tasted my first Chablis, my first white Bordeaux. And our list was very classic. So, and it was just for me the best boot camp ever. And I don't know, I wouldn't trade it in for the world. And some of my, happiest times, we had so much fun. And I met some amazing people that I'm still friends with, so, that I will be for the rest of my life. So, um, God, I miss it so much when I think about it. I think no one cooks like Michelle, and I think she's at a level beyond still. I think her food is just so soulful and flavorful. And I mean, it was, she's so impressive, and I'm just amazed by her.
Rumor is she's opening another restaurant, more like Michi's again soon.
Oh,
So
I
we
got it. I
have
know
that.
they're opening Senora in the
Right.
Gables. When I did that original wine list in '09. We were actually looking back at it a few months ago, and it was so ahead of its time. It was such a cool list. Um, and yeah, another place like Mishi's, that would be, oh, that would be icing on the cake. It was just, I got to wait on the coolest people like uh, Daniel Ballou, Daniel Hum, Jane McKierney, Danny Meyer. I got to wait on serve these people wine. Eli Manning, Aubert Chardonnay, I remember on a
Mhm.
Sunday. Um, God, yeah. I think everyone knows, anyone that's been to Mishi's knows how special it was. And it was at the time in Miami, there weren't a lot of restaurants like that. I mean, now there's so many great places and so much competition. Um, but it really was, I think the word gem is used too much and brilliance used too much, but it really was a gem. And I'm just so fortunate I got to work there.
So fast forward to now, so you finally made it to Miami. Right now, what is the most rewarding part of your job?
And there's like a lot of little things. But I think sharing, and I say this even on my like little Instagram handle, but for me, it's like sharing the joy of wine is just very rewarding. Like, it's not making people happy. I think I hear that a lot, and it's like, that doesn't make me happy. It's really sharing this joy. Like when you see, like sharing this excitement, thrill, joy of like, of wine, really. I love spirits too, and sake and beer, but wine is, um, sharing these stories and excitement, whether it's someone tasting a new flavor, a new grape. And I think that's a very broad answer, but sharing the joy of wine with people for sure, is to me like the most rewarding, that I love. And as much as sometimes I say, oh, I'd like to do something else and get out of the business one day, and I'd like to work with animals, or maybe, I don't know, I like to do something totally different. I don't know, that sharing that magic of like new bottles or how something's going to taste. Or I mean, I think of these bottles as my friends. Like, as much as I want to say I love working with the people I work with and I love the customers I meet, and I do love these things, but I almost feel like these wine bottles are my friends. And that might sound like really odd or really, but I do like things. I'm more of a person. If anyone knows me, I'm not really a people person. I'm not at all. Like, I'm naturally very shy. I don't, I still get nervous when I go to a table to talk to them about wine every time. I get nervous when I'm doing a class, whether it's 4 people or 100 people. I do. I'm naturally not a people person. Every time I have to be in a public space, it makes me awkward. And I feel like these wine bottles are my friends. So that also is something like reward. I just do. I feel like I have all these bottles are my friends, and I have all these friends, and they're always there, and they always excite me and make me happy. Um, so yeah, that's such an odd answer, but it's true. I'm like,
Well, I love it because it's you. So it's right.
yeah,
We're making this interview about you. So you're making it Allegra.
yeah. And I
Whatever
feel
you
like
want to
people
say.
don't it's okay to say, like, it's God, we live in this world. It's like hospitality has become like so draining. It's changed so much, and it has. It's not an easy business to be in at all. You're constantly front facing. You constantly have to answer to customers. Someone's constantly mad about something, and it's it's a lot sometimes. But yeah, these wine bottles. I just see bottles and I love them. I love the shapes. I love the sizes. I love the labels. I love the design. I love the colors. I love that they're made in a city, in a place, in a country, um, and have facts about them. That part of it is so cool to me.
Like the Napa saying, poetry in a bottle.
Yeah, it is. I like poetry too. I like writing. For people that know me, I write poems, stupid poems about wines, which I love to do, like, I don't know, late at night on my computer, which is another very weird habit I do. But yeah.
Trust me when I say we all have our weird little things.
I know.
So on the heels of that, what are some industry pet peeves?
Oh, I don't know. I think I tried the last few years to let go of pet peeves, um, and not really focus on them. But I'm sure I have big ones. Industry, like things that,
It could be
industry pet
industry, service, client, restaurants.
Oh, wait, I
You
do
know,
have one.
yeah.
You know what it is? It's just a general pet peeve, but it's like I it's yes, this is a generic pet peeve, but it's like customers, guests, whatever you call them, they always have a vocal opinion about when they go into a restaurant. And it's some people are just like, oh, I think you should do this or that. And I haven't even talked to the person. I haven't even said hello to the person. It's like, I don't go into Target and say, oh, I think you should do this. Or I don't go into the Gap and it's like, I don't like the way you're doing this. I don't like the way you're doing that. And it's like, that's just like, I just don't get that. Maybe it's, yeah, I guess it is a pet peeve because it's like, I don't do that.
Unsolicited, right?
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, but for some reason, people feel a need to say something like, and I'm like, I could just be, you don't even know if I work here, or there's
Right.
just something with restaurants that, or wine bars, or that public feel this need to like make a comment about. And it's like, do I go into your office and do that? Or it's just, it's weird to me. It's just odd. It's something that I'm like, it's just so odd. And it's just become maybe more common, or maybe because I'm getting older and and I'm honing on this more, or it bothers me more. But that's just something that I don't get, that I'm like, that's so odd. Like, why, you know, um, it's just odd. Yeah, I think that would be a pet peeve of mine.
What going back to wine tasting when you started, what in your experience, what did it take for you to learn to smell and taste the wine properly?
God, I think everything is a work in progress. I think palates are always changing. And um, you know, I remember in 16 when I was in this zone, it's the year I passed the master's blind tasting, and I was like really practicing and honing, like smelling and tasting. Some people are better smellers, some people are better tasters, some people are, to me, it's all like a craft, unless you're maybe one of a million people in the world, but it's a very practice thing, like playing a sport, or um, and I think just everything is practice, like sitting down with varietals, mixing them up, and coming up with different exercises to do it. Like, people, blind tasting and tasting wine is, I'm sure you talk to a lot of people, is like 1% of what you, I don't even know if it, how much does it really matter, right? But honing your palate, like training your palate to pick up faults, um, is just, this is all practice, and just sitting down with classic wines and learning, okay, what does a classic Chablis taste like? What does a Chablis with botrytis taste like? And developing different exercises. I had like 5 different exercises and routines I would do in different groups, and I would taste with different tasters, right? And be your own taster. Just because I'm not getting oregano doesn't mean it's not Sangiovese. And I think people with tasting, they're so willing to take advice from people. And it's like, just be your own taster. And no matter what program or studies you're doing, if you're not doing studies, the rest will come. If you know the wine first, the rest, like I always used to say about like the grid, or the scores live within the wine, right? Just be your own taster and develop your own palate. Like, I always used to be like someone, I remember going to like Fred Game's house, and he's like, no, you can never say like Rioja is always medium plus, medium plus, medium plus, or this is always, and I'm like, no, to me that's a shifter. I can have Sangiovese that's moderate plus acidity and high acidity. I can have an Albarino that's high acidity. I don't have to call, like, just be your own taster, right? There's no, yes, there's certain black and white things, and I think those are important things to focus on when you're honing your palate and tasting wine. Like, does this have oak? Does this have French oak? Does this have American oak? Does this have lees contact? Does this not have lees contact? Does this have botrytis? Does it not have botrytis? Those, like the black and white things, I think are important to focus on, things that have data. And then the rest can live in a little bit of a gray zone, and you can develop your own palate. But people are so, sometimes just so concerned about fitting in this box or saying the right thing. And it's like, just let the wine speak to you in its way, and be your own taster. And you have to spend time with wines. Like, you have to sit down and then read text sheets about wines, and read about theory and the vineyard and the aspect of the vineyard and the vintages. And then all that knowledge kind of comes into play, right? Like, was this a cool vintage, or is this a producer that picks earlier, or is this a north facing slope, or like, there's so many, is this a Viognier with extended lees contact, and that's why it's not as floral. There's like so many things. It's just, I think, unending research and data and then spending time with classic bottles, um, and just practicing. Um, it's something I miss. I think blind tasting, practicing, and doing all that stuff was so fun. And I'm a much different taster today. I've had COVID a couple times, so I'm not as, I just feel like a different person. But yeah, be your own person, be your own taster, and figure it out.
I'm actually I'm happy you said that. I'm having a hard time a little bit because I'm studying for a WSET exam. And the part where it's the food pairings, obviously food is my jam. And so I'm basically having to learn what they want me to answer because I have
Right.
opinions on what I like to pair that might not be traditional, but everyone has a different palate.
Yeah.
So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so this is not, I don't agree with this, but this is what W set wants me to answer. So yes, plum, great, vanilla, whatever. Like, so I'm
Yeah.
like learning the rehearsed answer where I could write like a whole essay, like, actually, I like to pair this with this because of this, but I can't because it's just 30 questions and I have to answer what they want me to. So I'm having a hard time with that because I
No,
feel
it
like it's
is fun. And I can't, I've never done it's an amazing program, never done it. And yeah, you're right. Sometimes you just, exactly, you have to play by the rules, right? And that's the way it is. That's education. And that's a good thing to do. So yeah, I guess learning to when to, maybe the correct answer, listening to your feedback, is like learning when to go off road, like go rogue and be your own taster, and learning and having the discipline to stay focused and play by the rules and play the game. So maybe now talking this through, it's like, wait, that is the right answer. When to be like, be your own palette, and then okay, when am I going to play by the rules and play the game?
right.
Um, but spending time with wines is really cool. Like, um, and getting to know, like, people just have these like big sweeping opinions about a wine, and you never really know until have you tasted like this producer through multiple vintages. It's from this vineyard. I mean, there's just so much that you can. I mean, there's just so much to learn with blind tasting. I just think it's like a never ending. It just never ends. You could always learn so much more. And to me, that's like so exciting. I mean, I wish I could practice blind tasting wine. It's so much fun. And that's why a lot of people are great blind tasters, because it's fun, right? Like you're like, that's the fun part. I don't want to do it. Like, um, but yeah, you're right. Everyone has such different palates. Um, and smells different things, and communicates differently. And I think that's important to remember.
Yeah, I do love a good blind tasting. We do it at home often with friends, and it gets really competitive because people are just so sure that they know. And then when you don't win or when you don't guess it right, and it becomes, but it's a lot of fun, but you learn,
It's
you know.
It's you always learn. And I love doing that with pricing with some distributors. Like, don't tell me the price, I want to guess it. And then you think it's more expensive, and it's not. Like, I think this is 25 wholesale. No, this is 12. You're like, that's awesome. Like, and I love, sometimes on Friday nights, I usually work in Key Biscayne at Vinya on Friday nights. And I always typically would have the staff like go pick a bottle, blind taste me. We still do it. It's fun. And it's just fun to have. And I was so, oh my God, I think was it New Year's Eve day? I was like, go pick a bottle. And I was like, what? This was dark purple. Like, I almost could not see through the glass. It was like big, but not. And then there were some savory qualities. And I was like, is this what? I was so confused. I was like, is this Allion? Like, and Carlos reveals the bottle, and it's like Henri Gouge, the Clos de Paris Red Burgundy 2020, 15% alcohol on the back label. It said, I was like, what? I'm like, I was so embarrassed. I was like, I just called Henri Gouge, who I love, his monopole Allion. I was like, yeah, and I've noted yesterday I did it did it too. I called someone blind tasted me on Jean-Marc Merlot Merceau 2021, and I thought it was like Chablis Premier Cru. I was like, whoops. I just massively underscored this wine, which I've done before with Merlot too. I've said it was like, I'm like, this is a great this is a really great Bourgogne Aligoté. I love this. This is great. And it was like Merceau Clos de Boucher 14. I was like, oh, whoops, I was off.
Oh, that doesn't work. Time to get back on it.
Oh, yes,
What,
practice.
what is a common wine myth you would like dispelled?
About like wine people, about Psalms. What is
No, it
it?
could be about anything. Like something drinkers say, something psalms say or do, or
Oh, a
like a wine myth,
wine.
something that people think that say all the time or do all the time, and you feel like that's not factual or true, or I don't agree with it.
I guess like the common one is that Psalms just like drink a lot, which is not really true. Oh, and like it's like when you're opening bottles, working at the floor, like I'm still on the floor sometimes, and it's um, like oh I love your job, I would love to have your job, and I'm like okay, great, let's trade. Like, do you want to open boxes for 3 hours in the morning, and do you want to like I think that's a myth, like the glamorous
Right.
psalm life or something, is because there's a lot of physical work that goes into being a psalm, and it's like I haven't worked out in I used to be a runner, but in probably 2 years, but I'm always physically moving stuff, and I'm like it's a lot of physical work. Actually, I was looking for a part-time retail person 6 months ago, and she's like, can I have more? I gave her a detailed description of the job, and I wasn't candy coating anything. And she said, wow. And I appreciated this feedback. She goes, wow, I didn't realize how much physical work it was. I was like, yeah, how do you think these bottles get on the wall? We don't have in a perfect world, I'd love to have a little stocker that comes in and stocks all my
Yeah.
bottles, but
Yeah.
I've always moved every bottle of my own wine since I started. I've never had, except when I was at Lamar, which I loved. It was like I was like so used to, because I never worked on a team. I always worked in smaller places. So we were always smaller staffed. And I liked that because I had more creativity to do my own programs. And that was something to me that was always important. I want to write my own list. I want to do my own buying. I don't want to, I don't want to listen to someone else. And for me, that was so important as a psalm. But when I got to the Mandarin, I was like, and I was ghostwriting for Psalm Select during the day. And I did that at night because I had to practice service to pass the MS service because I failed 4 times. And I was like, screw this. I'm not failing this again for the 5th time. I need to work on the floor, and I need to practice because I'm a klutz, I need to practice my tray skills. And working at the Lamar was the best thing ever. And I was like, wait, what do you mean I don't have to no, they're like, you just put in your order the night before and your wine shows up on a cart. You go down to the commissary, you pick up and you just roll your wine in a cart up to and I'm like, that's it? That's it. I was like, this is amazing. I'm like, I mean, it was like I was like, what have I been schlepping boxes for 15 years? And I was like, I just literally like someone pulls my wine for me and I just roll it on a little cart up the stairs, and then I go sell bottles of wine. They're like,
Right.
yeah. And I'm like, it was amazing. I was like, this is such a great, like, I was like, oh, this is so awesome. I was like, I didn't have to unpack one thing, and it was so cool.
It was glorious.
It
Where
was
would you
glorious.
steer a person wanting to learn more about wine?
Where would I send them?
Where would you steer them?
Oh, steer them. Ah, sorry, my fault. I thought, where would I steer them? I always say start with um my favorite book. I don't know the current edition. Maybe the ninth edition is out. It could even be 10th. The World Atlas of Wine from Hugh Jancis Robinson is my absolute favorite book of all time. So I actually took 5 to 6 months and I rewrote the whole book. I think I was on the 6th edition at the time. I don't know. We could look up the current edition. Sorry, I don't know the current edition. But I think I was on the 6th, and I wrote it back to front in my own language, and I redrew all the maps, and then
Wow.
kind of as you're going through the book, um, then afterwards, if you want to reward yourself, you could taste a wine from the region, and to me, that was the best thing I ever did. I'm not saying I remember, I definitely don't remember everything, but I have to rewrite stuff. That's how I learn. Everyone is a different type of learner. everyone learns differently. I don't believe in one way is the right way for everyone. Just like, you have different kids, they all learn differently. I'm not saying you do, I'm saying in general you. But that to me that's what everyone says. I'm like, get the World Atlas of Wine, rewrite the whole book in your style, and whatever. You can do a page a day. You can do a page a week. There's no, like, you could do, I think I did 4 pages every day or something, 4 pages every day. Now I'm sure it's much longer and there's more regions in it, but to me, that is the best method. And like you said, you're in a tasting group. Join a tasting group. I wish I'm not in one. I haven't been in one in a long time. And I think that camaraderie is really helpful in learning about producers and learning about, oh, what did you have? And just picking up that producer knowledge from being in a tasting group. So you can have a conversation like this producer picks later. This producer is a little bit of a riper style. This producer, but having that accordion of producer knowledge is really helpful. And I think that comes with talking to people in the business or being in a tasting group.
This is a tough one, but what is a good starter wine? So someone, I want to get into wine. What should I start with?
Vino Verde. That was my starter wine. My starter wine was Vino Verde and Cote de Rhone. I thought it was like the coolest person on the planet. I think like in culinary school, we would go to the bodega up the street in Hyde Park and buy Vino Verde and sit by the pool. We thought we were like, oh my God, we thought we were like so cool. We were like, yeah, we drink Vino Verde. But now Vino Verde is like, there's some like serious Vino Verde out there that has, that's almost Chablis good like. But I think a good starter wine to me, like if you want to get into wine and learn about wine, you need to start with a great bottle of Sancerre, a great bottle of Chablis, and like I would just cover the basics. But for me, like if you're starting with the white, I would start with like a great Chablis Village. Like that's to me like a great way to get into wine. And it's also one of my favorite appellations. So
I don't think anyone's ever given me that answer, so I like that.
oh, good. Does anyone else say Vino? What if people
No.
they said other things? Like what?
They'll say a lot of like the sweeter, actually, like the late harvest or like
you gotta dive right in. I mean, listen, we all like sweet. I don't know why people in the business were afraid of sweet. Like when people, this could be a pet peeve. I just thinking another one. Maybe I probably have thousands of pet peeves, but I guess I don't classify them as pet peeves in my brain. But this is another, or people are like, oh, I don't like, of course, everyone's like, no, Riesling, I don't like it, it's sweet, but I don't like sweet wine, no sweet wine. But it's like, but you eat sweet things. Do you have a diet that has no, and you still break down? I mean, have you never had, I have a secret sweet tooth for people that know my crazy, like people will have something sweet, whether it's a barbecue sauce or ketchup or a piece of like a frozen yogurt or like they're sweet all around us. But for some reason, sweet and wine has become this like negative.
It's true.
Negative thing, right? It's like it's okay to have. What does it come to when you look at the brute scale? I did an article once and I measured it by teaspoons. It's like, what are we talking about here? An eighth of a 16th of a teaspoon that you're worried about, or eighth of a teaspoon of sugar from that's like, oh, I only drink extra brut champagne. It's like,
right. Maybe the profile of something that's extra fruity or presents itself as fruity, maybe people think that comes off as being novice or I don't know. So maybe something like
yeah, it comes up. I think like there was this trend for sure where it's like, oh, I only drink dry wine and I drink dry Riesling. I drink great, like this thing where if you drink dry, it means your palate is superior or something. It's like I still go to Dunkin' Donuts and get an iced coffee and get okay, I don't get 2 pumps, but I still get 1 pump of butter pecan when they have it. And when they're out, I get caramel. And I know it's fake and it's sweet and it's not good for you, but it's like whatever, I like it. It doesn't mean I don't love dry minerally Chablis too, or a sweet. It's just weird. Yeah, you're right. We like to stigmatize people based on their drinking choices, which is so weird. Because what you drink has nothing to do with the type of person you are.
Yeah.
It doesn't. What you drink if you drink cool shit, it doesn't matter. It doesn't, you could be the biggest asshole on the planet. I'd rather be a good person and drink shitty wine. Like, doesn't, but for some reason, this song, I don't know, someone decided like what you drink is like, and with the whole natural wine thing too, for some reason, like we just decided we're going to be crazy about not having additives here or not having. I mean, I just think if you looked at anyone's life and audited it, you just find contrary everywhere. So why does what you drink define who you are? I don't get that. That's something that's always like, and that's why one of our philosophies at Vinya is like, we'll sell wine to anyone. I don't care if you drink, say you like Camus or say you like that doesn't bother. Like, why would that bother me? That's what you like, and that's what you want to drink, and you could be like, just the whole judgmental thing to me is just so weird.
Yeah, kind of like the movie. I'm not drinking no fucking Merlot.
Yeah. Well, side note on that, Paul
Side
Giamatti.
note on that, on Sideways.
Yeah, his mom was my English school teacher.
Oh, wow.
They're from New Haven. He actually went to Cho. He didn't go to my, but his brother went to my high school. His mom, she died a few years ago. His dad was the dean of Yale Law School before he was the MLB commissioner, and they were from New Haven. And yeah, his mom was my Shakespeare English school teacher, and she would come into class. It was class started at 8:18. She'd always run in late, smoking cigarettes, and she was just over the top. She was a character, and she would say, "Oh God, my sons." Paul and Marcus, they're out in California trying to be actors. Like she would,
I
it
love
was
that.
1990, 1996. Yeah. But that's why Paul Giamatti Sideways holds I think I saw it when it was on the pre-release in New York because I was in New York City when it came out, working at John George at that time. I think I was one of the first people to see it. And God, I love him. He's such a great actor. Anyway,
And
I
such
digress.
so many good scenes there. And
Oh, I haven't seen it in so long. I don't think I've seen it since I saw it when it came out. I should
wow.
watch it again.
Yes. Maybe a screening of Vinya with
Oh,
Merlot, with
a
lots of
movie,
Merlot.
a Merlot movie night. Yes,
Merlot movie night. Okay, I'm
free
coming.
Free Merlot for everyone. Merlot is so delicious. Again, it's like, oh, that's why they were drinking Patrice at the end or something. I like Merlot because it's like I like dark red fruited grapes. So like I like Carignan, I like Cinsault, I like Pinot, I like Merlot, and Merlot typically has dark red fruits. And I like dark red fruits. Like as a person, I like cherries, strawberries, black raspberries. Like I like those flavor profiles, and Merlot to me has those, and that's why I like Merlot.
What have you been pouring for yourself lately?
Um, I just took home last weekend. It was last week. It was my birthday on Monday, and I said, you know what? I haven't been drinking a lot of wine. My boyfriend doesn't really drink, so we don't really keep wine at the house. And I said, you know what? I'm going to drink a ton of wine this weekend because why not? I can splurge, whatever. I'm such a goody two shoes sometimes. So I am. I'm like, why am I'm in my house. I can have a bottle of wine if I want, and no, like I don't. What am I worried about? Um, and I took home. Um, I like to mix it up, New World and Old World. I took home an amazing carbonic Grenache from Paso Robles called Destinata by Tooth and Nail. That was exquisite. I took home a white Burgundy Montagny from Jean-Marc Pillot, 2021, which was outstanding for $42 retail. I took home a Fougere from Liam Barral. I love Grenache. I haven't opened it yet, but that Grenache from Paso Robles was so good. Low alcohol, but still had body and girth to it and grip. I'm always worried about like lower alcohol reds that have no structure or lack something. I like wines that have structure and tannin to them, and that was impressive. And this new producer that I love, it's a little bit on the richer side for Chablis, but Jean Dauvissat, not the John and Sebastian, not the Vincent. He's like the other Dauvissat. New producer to Florida. His Vaillant Chatin Clément, the 2021. goes through full mallow, which I know could be a turnoff for some people, but there's this great juxtaposition of like it's so rich and so light at the same time. And those are my favorite styles of white wines. Ones that are so decadent with minerality that they almost feel sweet, but they're bone dry. And they're like just so satisfying, but at the same time, like pillowy. It's hard for me to describe, but that wine has that thing I love. So I've been like really excited about that producer. Um, so I guess Chardonnay would be my favorite grape then, and Grenache maybe. Oh no, Grenache, Pinot Nebbiolo, but I don't know.
I think I will be stealing Pillowy. I will be using that one.
Pillowy. Yeah, I mean, like wines that have this.
Makes sense to me though, what you said.
Yeah, yeah. And whites, I think that's why I'm gravitating more towards whites because reds also make my face a little more, yeah. Um, I just don't feel as good on reds and whites. And shockingly, I don't know, I haven't done the research, so shame on me, but bubbles, champagnes give me a headache. So I'm not a bubble head. They just, I don't know if it has to be the bubbles or the carbonation, but it doesn't do that. If I have soda, it doesn't do that. But bubbles tend to give me a headache. So I actually don't drink a lot of sparkling wine, which is a big faux pas. I know if you're a som, but
Same. I don't actually.
right, you don't either, right? And people always like send a glass of champagne, send a glass, and I'm like, I don't really drink. That's why, like, when you give I like to send something at the end, typically not the beginning, because a lot of people don't drink. Some people don't drink bubbles.
Yeah. That's actually a weird one for me too. Sometimes I will be at a restaurant and then they will send like an after like a late harvest wine, but then they send so much. And then I feel like, oh, I think I lost your oh yeah, no, I got you. Okay. Yeah, they send so much. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be rude. I know this is a very expensive pour, but at the same time, I just had like 4 desserts, an entire tasting menu, and then we're sitting there like, oh, thank you. And I feel terrible leaving it.
Yeah,
But,
and sometimes that's why I feel like it's just okay to ask, like,
ask,
hey,
what do you, yeah,
and you never know if people are drinking or not drinking, or maybe like, and that's like a rule of hospitality. You never assume anything.
right.
Like, we had this client in Key Biscayne for 3 years, comes in and buys a mixed case of reds, and then one day he just walks in, he's like, you know what, throw in some whites, and I was like, what? Like, who are you? What have you done with Ricky? Like, and you can never assume anything. Maybe someone's not drinking because I don't know, or doesn't,
Right.
Sorry, reds now give me a headache. Or so I think when people come in, it's okay to ask, like, hey, how are you feeling? Do you feel like, I have this great white open. Do you feel like a little white? And they'll say, like, you know what?
Yes.
No, I'm okay. And if, so I think with drinking choices, like we've said, are so personal. Food choices are so personal. Um, and you can't assume, I don't know. It's just hard. We try to play detective, but at the end of the day, you don't know if it's that one moment where someone's going to surprise you, or that could be the exception to the rule that day, and you never know that. So I try to remember that. I think it's a good hospitality trait, but it's to or assume this could be the person's worst day of their life, or it could be their best day of their life, or you don't know. I'm not a mind reader. I know you're supposed to play detective, but it's like I don't read minds. Like, so sometimes I just ask when someone comes into the wine shop, I have to talk about price point. We have wines from $12 to $8,000. Like, do you feel like spending 30, 40, 50, like I don't know. I can't read your mind. I can't tell by how you're dressed. I don't know if you have, it's who knows?
Yeah, I like
That was funny working in San Francisco. I couldn't tell. I'm like, I can't tell. I feel like I can't tell if this person's homeless or a millionaire. I really can't. I don't know.
they're just very bohemian.
Anyway, you were gonna say something. Sorry.
Yeah, I like what you said about asking, because when asked, my husband and I usually say, bring one and we'll share it, because we just want to taste it. We just want to have that sip, and that's it, versus leaving it. I feel it's so rude to get up and leave it, but then
No.
sometimes I just don't want it. I don't want it.
And fine with like I don't. It's like, oh, there's that old, like, I think it was like an '80s chef thing where it's like, remember the chefs would be like in the kitchen looking at the plates come back, and it's like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
they didn't finish. What's wrong with it? Why did table 100 finish their food? And it's like, it's like, I don't. Why? I don't. To me, it's like a waste of it. People don't want something. They don't. Who cares? Move on. It's like not a big deal. We take it like I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah.
that happened to me at Per Se, and they're big on you have to be happy. And I wasn't mad. It was a venison and I didn't really like how it was prepared. And I was really getting saturated anyway because it was very decadent. So I left. It was very raw. It was very rare. So it was like red and I don't know, it was wrapped in bacon, but the actual venison was red. It didn't look appetizing. I didn't want it. So they came and I was in the middle of conversation and they asked, well, oh, did you not enjoy it? And I said, no, I'm getting a little full. It's a little rare for me, but I kind of like waved it off. Like I wasn't mad. I wasn't saying like, this is disgusting or, anything like that. And they just kept insisting. Well, what else? Like, why didn't you like about it? And like right there, they wanted a review like right then and there. And I was in the
It's
middle of a
awkward, right?
conversation. It was weird, but to their credit, they took it and they were very, I guess, disappointed. And it was also like at the very end, that was one of the last dishes. They came back with this, I forget what they call it, but the beautiful parm bread, and they
Uh,
showered these beautiful white truffles on it as to make up for me not
oh,
liking the
that's so
venison.
nice.
I
That's way
knew
better.
it was very nice, but then I also felt bad in a way. I mean, not bad. I mean, we paid enough for it, right? But at the same time, nobody else on the table got the truffles, just me. And then it was kind of like it was on me. Like I didn't enjoy it, but I wasn't gonna complain about it. I didn't send it back, like anything. But that was their way, hospitality. I was saying, oh no, she's leaving here happy. She will leave here. I mean, I did. Everyone was like, oh, that's not fair. She's getting a
Yeah.
shower of truffles.
Oh man. I mean,
It's
just that
funny.
level. Yeah. And I can't imagine the pressure they're under too,
Right.
like, having to report to like the chef or why they're
Right.
so it's like,
Imagine that plate
yeah.
was not completely untouched almost. I had like
Oh
two
my God.
bites.
They would hate me because I never finish anything. Because I'm like at the
If
the
I
end
show
of,
you a picture of it,
I'm
though,
never going there. Is it per se still open, right? Yeah, I
it's
know.
still open. Yeah, it's the hospitality there is not what it used to be, in my opinion. I mean, back then it was just, I'm talking like maybe 2014. I mean, I've been back since, but that level of detail and intensity they used to have is no longer there. I
I
could send you
remember when
back
it
now and
opened. I was at John George and Masa just opened per se. That building, the AOL Center just opened. Masa per se opened and Jonathan Beno was there. He was the head chef. And oh my God, I remember being I never get starstruck, but we used to all hang out at this bar on 59th Street called the Coliseum. And then like the John George people will get there, then the per se people. And then I remember once seeing the chef Beno and it was like, oh my God, and then it was that was a really cool time when Michelin just came out in New York and we had just gotten 3 stars and had a party. And then it was a cool, that was a cool time to be there. Looking back at it and yeah, it was the top of its game.
yeah, that's actually John George was one of my favorite dinners ever, ever,
Really?
ever. I
He
did
was
a
so cutting edge, like his Lafayette Hotel and then JoJo, and for really doing in the 80s, like lighter things and vet juices and vegetables and fish. And he was just so cutting edge. And I do too. I think his food is absolutely stunning and beautiful and so simple. Um, I'm not that much of like a restaurant nerd, but I've always wanted to go to Le Bernardin. um, that would definitely be on my bucket list, even though I usually have no desire to go to like pre-fee places, but that would be a place um, I've heard is exquisite. I would love to go there.
actually my least favorite out of all.
What?
I know, I
Oh,
know, I
God,
know,
you're crushing my Le Bernardin
I
hope.
know. Well, do you like seafood?
Mhm.
You do? Okay, I mean, you might enjoy it. I don't love hot fish. I love my fish kind of like omakase style, like cold and but we were kind of nerds in the sense that we wanted to, with our first time going, we wanted to compare it. So we did per se back to back to La Bernardin. So we did not literally back to back, but we did lunch at per se and then we did dinner in La Bernardin. So going off, that wasn't the time of the venison. That
Wow.
was actually our first time ever. And so comparing both restaurants, the level of hospitality at Per Se and just the overall experience. And we were at La Bernardin, so it was more of this beyond simple, but the service wasn't necessarily there. We had our fish, but then the saucing came later, but they were like late with it. And so we were just sitting there while the fish was getting cold. And so little things like that. And we were thinking, well, this did not happen earlier today, per se, So
Oh,
that it was kind of like, we just don't want to go back. There was nothing.
it was just a, yeah.
I guess if we would have done it first, maybe we would have been more enamored with it. But Per Se was so over the top with everything,
Yeah.
including when they kill you at the end with a bunch of desserts and things.
Started at the top and yeah, you had so
Right.
much to look up to.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I have friends who absolutely love it. So I'm just one person with one opinion.
Not like I'm rushing to go there. Like maybe I'll go there in the next. But that in Miami, I really want to go to Maddie's because I heard it's great. And
See,
like
that one I love. I love Mati's. So good.
and just that style of cooking. And I learned a lot when I worked at Lamar from Diego. I think he's amazing. And he's like this giant cartoon character. He's like so cool and like always happy. Like he's just so. I'm like I want to put him in my pocket. He's just like so lovable.
Contagious. I feel like he's contagiously happy always.
Yeah, he's
People
just
like just
like
be happy around him, right?
he just looks, yeah, like he should have his own cartoon show. He's so cool. He just seems like a big caricature to me or something. He's just there's something about him that's so magical. And yeah, again, it's hard to describe, but he was so much fun to work with. And I learned so much about uh Peruvian culture and the Chinese influence, the Japanese influence. And I was like enamored. It was such an eye-opening. I'd never seen these flavors before, and the anticuchos and I mean, it was like, and the causas, and it was so, I learned a lot there from being there. And I have to go back and visit, but what another cool, I didn't think I was like, oh, I'm just going to som here and just get my service out of the way. And like, I'm just going to check in, check out. And I had no expectations. So maybe that was like what was so great about it. I just literally had no expectations. I was like, I'm just going to get some practice on the floor. And then I ended up just, it was so hard. I left because of the Vinya opportunity. And I felt, oh my God, so sad when I left. And I had no idea I'd have such like an amazing time. But yeah, Diego's special guy.
Well, run there now too, because I feel we've been going since he opened around 2014, and I feel like he's at the top of his game right now. And
Really?
remember, their building is coming down, so before they close, you have to make it there. And then Mati's, for sure, you have to go. Soul
Yeah.
food, it's food with soul. She makes it with so much love and passion, and you could taste it.
She's like a superstar. I saw her and
Yeah.
Sobe Food and Wine walking down Collins, and she had her big post. It was like Michelle Valerie Trent, and like I'm like, wow, she's like a like that's awesome. Like I'm super stoked for her, and it's gonna be on my. I gotta hit that place up for sure.
Love it. How do you feel about the current Miami wine scene overall?
Wow, I think it's so exciting. I just think we have such an awesome community. I think, um, I moved here in 2006. I left in 14 to go to California, and I moved back in 18. And when I moved back in 18, I was just trying to dip back into my network. So much had changed. So many people had moved here in 14, 15. Forget COVID. Like Miami has been growing and changing since the late 90s. And there was so much new people here that had already moved there, and new wine people and new faces. And I was just trying to like, you know, do my thing, try to like, I almost felt like behind when I moved back. I was like, oh my God, like, yeah, I just came back from San Francisco. I'm now like, elevated and, and I was like, I was almost going to leave. I was like, just kind of struggling to find my footing here. And, cause I think it's been bubbling for a while. And now I think it's just getting the people, the community, the engagement, the chat groups we're in that Amanda started. I mean, I think there's so many colorful, unique characters. I think there's always space for more people. I never think we've topped off or I think the birth and rise of independent restaurants, because when I was started in '06 here, like most of the higher end restaurants or places would be within the confines of a hotel. So I think just all these independent restaurants doing their independent wine lists, I think is just, we've come like light years away. And I hate how we always get kind of like a bad rap because we're a spirits town or we're a party town. And yeah, that's the elements of that are true, but it's not like we were serving crappy. It's not like we were serving, like I said to someone, not like we were serving crappy beverages in 2000. Like there were people like Virginia Phillips at the Breaker and Laura De Pasquale and David Mocha at the Lowe's. And that, like, there were so many people doing cool shit. And now I think it's just kind of this waterfall moment. But I don't know. I think it's exciting. Like, I can't even keep up with, like, I don't even know to keep up with all these restaurants and places and things to go to. But I like it. I think we have and I think we're not like a cliquey, I don't know, there's so many people I don't know. I mean, I don't, so there's so many people out there to meet. But I think we have a pretty awesome community. I'm like Team Miami all the way. I loved San Francisco too. I thought when I moved up there, I got to like, people were so awesome. It wasn't cliquey or snotty. The wine scene out there at that time in 14, 15, 16 was awesome too. But I think Miami has come a long way thanks to people that have came before us. That's how it always is, and came before them and them. And listen, we'll always be a spirits town. We're in the right. This is Southern Wine and Spirits headquarters, and there'll always be the cocktail bottle of wine. So there'll always be that. We're never gonna be like fine wine dominant, and that's okay. Like, we're a resort area. We have beaches. Give me a margarita by the pool. I don't want, you know what I mean? That's okay. Let's embrace that. But wine wise, the amount of fine wine on the market, the producers, all the great, like all the stuff that we have access to now, allocations we never had access to before, is the competition makes everyone better. It now feels competitive where before it didn't feel competitive, and now feels competitive. And to me, that's exciting because it just keeps everyone on their toes. I got to research, where's this one? Who bought this? What's it keeps everyone alive and engaged and pushes everyone. So I feel like we've reached a level of, yeah, like I feel it, like a competitive in a good way, not, there's I don't know, it's crazy to actually see the change.
The growth.
From 06 to less than 20 years, we've become like, we're in magazines now. Fine wine. When I was talking to runs a big import company, like, oh, we're not even taking them to San Francisco anymore. We do Chicago, Miami, or they'll just come, like, we're doing all the seminars that are available. It's crazy. I can never go to any stuff during the day, but I'm like, all the opportunities there are to meet people, all the big importers and famous celebrities or people making wine that come to Miami. Just the amount of resources there are to learn and go to trade seminars, go to master classes. There was not to say there was none, but that there's so much going on. There's so many ways for people to learn and be involved. Look what Sarah Phillips has done with Wine Talks Miami. That's awesome.
I love her. She was on the podcast too.
She's great. It's like, just to have, I always try to go. It's on a Monday, but it's like, it's so cool. I was like, this is awesome that just to have this for the community. I'm starting Slow Wine Miami. I'm on the Slow Food Board. I don't, but I guess I don't. Do I know? I know. I'm on the Slow Food Board, but I'm part of my mission. I'm supposed to be spearheading Slow Wine Miami, and I was looking for places, and it's not easy to find a collaborator. And I didn't want to do it at Vinya because I want to make it kind of separate. So Amara was like, of course we'll do something, and just like, that's so awesome. It's mind-boggling to see the progression since I've been here, minus my 4 years in San Francisco since 06. That it's so cool to see that we're finally a competitor on the big stage. I think you could put us with New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles. I mean, I do. Why not? We might not have all the letters by our name or the group, but we have people that know what they're doing and know how to run beverage programs and run profitable businesses. And that's like the important, so I think it's awesome. Yeah.
What would listeners be surprised to learn about you?
I was on a game show, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, when I was 12 years old.
I love that.
It was so embarrassing because I hated being on television. That was fun. I once signed up for a half marathon in 2007 in January, and with my friend, I was like, "Yeah, I'll run the half." She was the manager at Mishi's. I was like, "Yeah, I'll do the half marathon with you. Sure, why not? I can run 12 miles." And then I was like feeling so good. I signed up, got my half marathon letter. It's pouring rain at 6:30. I was like, all right, it's a Sunday. I was like, I get to mile whatever, the halfway point, and I was like, I'm feeling pretty good. And I just took off my thing and I like half marathon. Oh, I think I ripped it off and I ran the whole thing. And then I actually had to go to work that day. It was a Sunday. Scott Connaught was actually coming in for dinner that night. And then immediately, like, I think I go to work at 4, and there was no one there for me. Like, I get to the finish line, and it's not like no one knew I was doing this. So I like kind of finished, and I was like, and I did it in like 4 hours, or I had like a good time, I had a decent time, and I like crossed the finish line. I was like, okay, yay! Like, it wasn't. I was just like, because no one. And my friend was like, after my phone, like, where did you go? Where are you? And I was like, oh, I just decided to do the marathon. And I actually went to work that day. It was a Sunday. I remember Scott Connaught was coming in, and I was like supposed to be serving, and I was like so just weird and swollen. I was like just so weird. I felt like so odd, like I was coming down like a bad, I don't know, off, I don't know, like sick or I don't know. And Michelle looked at me. She's like, "You look." She goes, "What the fuck? You just ran a marathon?" I'm sorry, I didn't mean to swear. She's like,
You
"You
can
look
curse.
like you look like." I'm a big cursor. That's probably another thing. I swear all the time. Thanks, Dad. She goes, "You look like fucking shit. Go home right now." And it's the only time I've ever been sent home from work.
Did they count it because you took off the bib, so they didn't have your
I
number?
think there's a picture. I think I saw my picture across the finish line. Like, they send it to you, I think. But oh, I got my medal. Yeah, I have a medal in a
Yeah.
box. So I got my medal.
Maybe that was before.
I'm not a packer. I don't keep stuff. So yeah, I got a medal. I remember getting a medal, and I think my brother lived in Brickell at the time, and he's very undramatic. So I think I was like, yeah, I ran a marathon. He's like, okay, cool. Like, just very so I think that's a funny story. And thinking back on that, I'm like, oh, I don't know. It was like just funny looking back at it. Yeah. Next time I'll train if I do run again, but I won't be running. I won't be running again.
Is there anything we haven't talked about that you would like listeners to know about you?
No, you can find me. I work for Vinya Wine. You can find me most nights. I work in Coral Gables, Vinya Table, and then most on Tuesday nights, and then most Friday nights. I'm in Key Biscayne, so I'm usually in Key Biscayne. So you can come visit me, say hi, yeah, and come by and just visit me, and let's share some wine and talk about wine. And I'm excited to meet everyone that's listening.
Awesome. One more thing. Tell me about No Phone Day.
Oh my God. So this started, I need to get this in the process of getting it trademarked. It started because last January 23, I was just like, we were driving around on a Sunday, and like some woman ran into me with her phone, and then Chris was like, oh, I forgot my phone at home. And I was like, let's just like, oh, I'm so sick. I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to just have a day without phones? And I don't know. Our old marketing director told me she had created like National Mame Day at the thesis. And I remember her saying that in her interview. It always stuck with me because we asked her, like, what are some things you did that you're really proud of? And she's like, and I remember her saying, like, actually, it was kind of easy. You just fill an application with the National Archives, blah, blah, blah. And it was always I always remember her saying that. And I was like, I think I texted her like, hey, is this the right website? I want to make sure it's legit. And it's just like, you pay a fee, you write an essay, you write a story, you fill out an application, and you get it approved, and you can create a national day. And I created it on April 18th in honor of my dad's birthday. So last year we got a few restaurants together to participate. We got a rosé sponsor. So guests that came in who could dine without their phone, whether it's 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever, they would get a free glass of rosé. So this year we had 14 restaurants participate. Next year, I'd love to get, I'm coming out with a rosé next year from Italy. So I'd like to get, I'll donate I can probably get 100 places, hopefully, to sign up next year. And yeah, every April 18th, it's a homegrown Miami movement. So I don't know. It's just it's something that I was like, yeah, I think it's like a fun little movement. So hopefully we have a larger pool next year and people just can enjoy a glass of wine without their phone. So every April 18th. I have to see if I have to renew that day. I'm like, wait, I think it's still valid. So, it's funny because my friend Yasmin Ferrer, she's a cookbook author. She lives in Minorca. I just did some wine copy for her new cookbook. She actually sent me this thing on Instagram the other day, and Savannah Guthrie at NBC News just did a piece on literally this happened one day after, or 2 days after, it was like on April 20th or something. And she just did a piece on, restaurant in Verona rewards clients for dining out there without their phone with a free glass of wine. And I go, Savannah, Miami did it first.
And you have proof too. I love it.
So I think of it as a Miami homegrown movement it's essentially like the theory, my philosophy is, I guess this is my anthropology coming full circle, but I remember one of my classes, one of my professors, Dr. Lamb, would be like, what makes us human? Like, is it walking? Is it like what makes us human? And I think like our unique social interaction is what makes us human, beyond standing on 2 feet. And like everyone is, this day and age is so crazy and frenzied. And so it's just, everyone's stressed, everyone's on edge the whole time. And it's just a day to like, whether, hey, call a friend or have a glass of wine with your mom or read a story you always wanted to read, or just maybe be by yourself. And I actually I went to Michael's, that's where I went last year. And I just literally, I'm sitting there waiting for my friend without my phone. And it was so hard to like, I was trying, and I was itching to like look at my phone when you're waiting for someone at the bar. My friend was like 30 minutes late, and I'm like sitting there and I'm like trying to just like take the moment and enjoy it, which is really hard to do.
It is. And what if she was late and she needed to tell you and you didn't check the phone?
Remember, there's no excuse when you had to go to the movie, like growing up. I didn't have a cell phone in high school. I graduated in 98. So it was like your mom, you couldn't text someone. You didn't have the safety net of running late. So you had to be on time. You just had to, you had to be places at certain times. Our phones are amazing. I'm not anti-phone. I'm all pro phone. Trust me. I love my phone, even though I have an iPhone 7 still. I love it. It's the best phone ever. But it's just, whatever. People have their unplugged days or their meditation days, and it's my way of taking a break and doing something different. That's all.
Well, Allegra, you are so interesting, and I feel like I could talk to you for hours. You are the best.
We have to grab a drink sometime. Let me know when you're down in Miami.
Yes, and I've been meeting. It's so funny that I was actually planning on driving down today, and then you're like, oh yeah, I'm not there. Oops.
I know, I'm bound to run. I'm usually there. Thursday, I'm always in the office. It's my office day, which is really nice because I just get to, it's just quiet and peaceful. But
yes,
this was so much fun. I had so much fun talking to you, and I'm so excited for your podcast. It's so cool, and I can't wait to see you again in person because I saw you at that the Senya thing, I think. But
yeah, it was Senya, yeah.
Have a glass of wine soon.
Yes, I am in. I can't wait to publish this one for the listeners. As always, I appreciate you tuning in. Please rate the podcast on Apple and Spotify. I cannot say it enough. It's so important, and I don't ask for much. So please do this favor for me. That's it for today. Until next time, from my palate to yours, cheers. Woo! And that's it.